When I'm traveling and someone asks me where I live, and I tell them I'm from New Hampshire, something inside of me feels good about that. I feel proud about being from New Hampshire. But why is that? Well, that's exactly what this program is about. Hi, I'm Chip Neal, and I'm inviting you to join me as we meet New Hampshire from a whole new perspective.
Hello, New Hampshire!
The idea to look at our state from a new perspective goes back to the summer of 1999, when New Hampshire was honored as the featured state at the Smithsonian Folklife Festival in Washington, D.C. There, for 2 weeks, 140 traditional New Hampshire artists, musicians, craftspersons, and trade workers shared what they do with hundreds of thousands of visitors on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. It was a testament to the incredible diversity of traditions that define New Hampshire's culture. And it was a chance to validate how important our traditions are.
I think in contemporary American society, we're so used to consuming culture made by somebody else. And I think it's very important for kids to understand that their neighbors, their parents, their aunts and uncles are also making culture and history in their lives. And somehow, and sometimes that goes underappreciated.
It was probably the first time such a diverse group of New Hampshire artisans came together in one place at one time. And it was all organized around 5 broad themes, representing those elements of New Hampshire's culture that tend to shape its unique character. Things like our musical traditions, our farms, forests, mountains, and sea, our homes, towns, and communities, our ingenuity and enterprise, and our seasons of work and recreation. Digesting all of the research and coming up with these themes, and then turning it all into an outdoor exhibit that visitors could understand, was the job of the festival curators.
Pike poles! Hold for pike poles!
Why does a festival need a curator?
Because this particular festival, unlike many other festivals that are put together, is really a temporary museum exhibit, mounted outdoors, under tents, and the focus, instead of on objects, is on living culture. And the only way to explain what goes on with living culture is to present people and what they do.
We're going to build a horse barn for the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. The horse barn's going to look pretty much like this when we're finished. We'll be raising that by hand in a traditional way. It's a traditional method of joining heavy wooden timbers without relying on metal connections. We use wooden dowels or pegs.
One of the things people think of when they think of New Hampshire, the first thing that comes to mind is covered bridges, That's right up there with lakes and trees. New Hampshire has over 50 covered bridges, many of them built in the late 1800s.
All back right up, one's arch, two's dot, meet a brand new couple and circle.
And now, a year later, that Washington, D.C. Folklife Festival has been restaged here at the Hopkinton Fairgrounds for all of us New Hampshire folks.
This project is a wonderful example of how the corporate sector and cultural organizations can join together to preserve New Hampshire traditional culture.
And the corporate sector stepped up to the table and played a major role in the success of these festivals, along with hundreds of volunteers and our politicians.
It is great to be here, isn't it? It's wonderful.
It was also a task that required us to think long and hard about who we are and how we have been shaped by where we live. In the South, the people shape the land. But in the North, the land shapes the people. In order to mount these two festivals, the New Hampshire Commission on the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and Celebrate New Hampshire Culture collaborated with the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts, which conducted hundreds of field interviews and did extensive research to learn more about who we are and what it means to be from New Hampshire.
The quality of life in New Hampshire and who New Hampshire is what attracts people to New Hampshire to visit, to live, to grow businesses and all of that. And if we plan to continue that into the next century, our story is important. And our true story is really important, so we're not luring people to New Hampshire for something that we're not, but for something we really are.
One of the things that defines us is our music. It reflects the ethnic diversity of the people who settled in New Hampshire over the years. English, Franco-Americans, Scottish, Irish, Polish, and to a smaller extent, Jewish, African American, and Latin American. Our musical traditions tend to be centered around the home and community, in more intimate settings, often accompanied by dancing.
The dancing that we do is user-friendly. Everyone can take part. You don't need to know anything before you come into a dance of an evening. And the other part that speaks to me is the social aspect.
The music is from the British Isles, England, Ireland, Scotland, not much in the way of Wales, and filtered down through Quebec. And it's been in New Hampshire such a long time that we call it, that it's become New Hampshireized.
That's a reel in that tempo there, or it can be a jig. Like that, see, that's a jig. Well, it has to be in the right tempo, it has to be in that format, one of the format of those kinds of things I just did, that beat. And if everything goes well and they enjoy the melody, why then perhaps you've got a tune that somebody would like to dance to.
Sweating normally in my grandparents' generation, my parents' generation, took place in the kitchen usually, but in the home, and they would move out. The stories I have heard from people of moving everything out of the kitchen, including the cast iron stove, in order to make room, and they would go all night.
Got to learn how to blow and squeeze and keep the air pressure going through all the reeds at a constant level. And then you're also learning then to move your fingers and blow and squeeze at the same time, and then you learn to tap your foot.
Klezmer music actually goes back to, people say, 16th century Middle Ages. You could say it's Jewish troubadour music.
Sometimes it sounds like sad Dixieland music.
In those days, we didn't really have a lot of instruments. In fact, most of the time we didn't have anything but a little old wooden shack and a floor, but that didn't stop us from praising the Lord. All right. Oh yes, it's about praise.
Our next big theme was Farm, Forest, Mountain, and Sea, and that's a place where we look at the natural resources in New Hampshire, the amazing abundance of them. And that was a way we could explore the occupational traditions, the work traditions, and some of the craft traditions that come out of that.
Ready? Flip.
In timber framing, what really takes the time is fashioning the timbers, cutting the joints, as you can see some fellows doing in the background here. And that may take a month or two done in the very traditional way. The raising itself, however, can happen in just a few hours. Carrie, set the feet down. Pike poles, hold for pike poles.
The exciting part of our history in northern New Hampshire and northern Maine. The rivers were the main source of transportation to get wood to the mills. They had probably 1,000 men in the woods at the height of it, cutting, hauling to the banks, and driving. When the Brown Company had the sawmill down here, they would have 16 miles of logs in the river.
I started lumberjacking when I was 7 years old with my father, hauling birch engines for firewood for all the Norwegians in the village.
If you fell onto it, you could run on the top of that.
Yeah.
And there were cat-footed men like Dan Bossy who drove around here in the 20s. They say that he could throw a bar of soap in the water and run on the bubble.
Lift, push, hold for the pike poles, hold.
All right, there are only 2,400 farms left in New Hampshire, and they average around 158 acres apiece. And the main products in New Hampshire today off these farms is milk and apples.
Milking shorthorn exhibitors, we'll be looking for your dry cows shortly. First call for milking shorthorn dry cow.
Now we need to flip it on its back so we can shear it without the sheep running away from us. All right, now you turn the head and you push down on the rump and it goes down on its rump like that, and it's flipped and it's sitting on its butt and it's a happy sheep. All right, now we'll slide its head over there so it's out of the way, put the other leg out of the way behind my leg so that this opens this all up so I can shear it.
The 4-H's of 4-H are my head, my heart, my hands, and my health. The pledges: I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
Good job. All right.
See, we have 2 stones, then 1 stone breaks that joint. Then the 2, it's broken again by 2 stones on top of it. It's exactly like weaving a basket. It's a good trade. And at the end of the day, you can look back and see what you've done.
From this quarry, that stone was taken to build the Library of Congress down in Washington, D.C., and also the state capitol in Concord.
I found out the most overpowering sensation here at the quarry is the noise. It reverberates and intensifies off the walls, and it never stops.
The dynamite, you just free it on the bottom, and then it is cut up in about 18 to 22 ton blocks, where it comes up here and it goes through our saws, and it's sawed up in whatever dimension that we like for the type of curb that we're cutting.
Our relationship with the sea, although small geographically, is a vital part of New Hampshire's character.
there's about approximately 18 miles of seacoast in New Hampshire, and there are 4 working harbors that support fishing: Portsmouth, Rye Harbor, Seabrook, and Hampton Harbor. And there are roughly between 400 and 500 fishermen, including lobstermen, draggers, and gill netters.
And what do lobsters like to eat?
Actually, they like most anything, but fish is one of the handiest things we have to use for bait. And they'll crawl up in here, and they'll smell that bait, and they'll try to get it to eat, and then they get kind of confused. Then they knew they crawled up in here, then they'll crawl up in here, and they'll drop back here. And this is where just about all of the lobsters will be back here.
Home, town, and community is another theme, which helps to define New Hampshire through our domestic crafts, as well as our political heritage and our community life. Our county fairs are an important part of that community life.
Years ago, there were some 10,000 folks here in the Hampshire Grants. Today, 1.2 million, a mite few for my taste. Actually, there's more women today than there are men, which is unheard of for the 18th century since women were in quite short supply.
We are the 9th state to have ratified the Constitution, and without our ratification, there would have been no United States.
New Hampshire has a real citizen legislature. We have the largest legislature in the country, 400 members in the House, 24 members in the Senate. They are a real citizen group. They work for $100 a year plus mileage, and they do a great job.
I think that the great strength of our presidential primary is that we expect candidates to come to New Hampshire, meet citizens, and answer questions.
The source of that motto, live free or die, is from Revolutionary War hero General John Stark, and it's actually an excerpt. The complete version is live free or die, death is not the worst of evils. They couldn't fit it all onto the license plate. Did you know Uncle Sam was a real person? His name was Samuel Wilson, and he lived here in this house in Mason, New Hampshire from age 14 to 23. That's when he left for fame and fortune in Troy, New York. New Hampshire's grand hotels are also part of our collective heritage.
All of New England was about 85% pasture about 150, 160 years ago. And in New Hampshire alone, there were 3 million sheep in the state. And right now, counting this flock, there's somewhere between 4,500 and 5,000.
Ingenuity and enterprise is another one of our themes. It examines the inventive nature, the Yankee ingenuity of our people and businesses. Like this experiment with Public Service Company of New Hampshire using grazing sheep to keep trees from growing up under their power line rights-of-way.
So the power company's interest is in getting rid of the plants that have the potential to grow up into the lines and leaving a nice cover with the plants that don't. And the sheep just happen, by coincidence, to have a pretty high percentage of compatibility with those power company needs.
Nick! There you go, good dog.
Okay, you can taper the material out, forge it, you can fire weld it, you can punch it or pierce it, cut it, or you can upset it, which is basically the same, what it says. You actually force the material back onto itself and make it thicker. That's the 4 basics, and with those 4 things in 20 years, it's a piece of cake.
The world-famous Concord stagecoach, seen in countless Western movies, was made by the Abbott Downing Company right here in Concord, New Hampshire. And New Hampshire is also fertile ground for world-renowned master furniture makers like David Lamb of Canterbury.
We lived right here on the grounds, and I had a great opportunity to meet the Shaker sisters. There were 6 of them then. At the same time, I had the opportunity to have an apprenticeship with Mr. Dela Cruz, getting exposed to European traditions in craftsmanship and furniture making.
Or the ingenuity might come in the form of community art, like these scrap metal sculptures made by Taylor Welding in Alstead.
What we're looking at here is a large polar bear. It's in excess of 10 feet in height and probably represents about 500 individual blades off of automobile fans.
Bob Taylor and his crew, along with his brother Ray, will be busy turning scrap metal into the sculptures that now populate the roadsides all around Alstead. It's become quite a phenomenon. They even show their work at festivals and art shows and in the schools. And now, some of their pieces have even become landmarks.
Well, this one has a number of farm implements in it. We have a manure fork up on top of its head. The body is made out of a snow plow. And there's some other cultivator parts that are incorporated in here along with some water pipes.
Earl Tupper of Berlin, New Hampshire invented Tupperware and founded the Tupper Plastics Company in 1938.
I have to do it. I have this thing that I have to carve as much as I can before I die. That's it. That's my goal. I know it. Nobody else understands it.
What is an inventor?
An inventor is a person that has tremendous perseverance and tenacity. Yeah. First off, he's got to have an idea, then he's got to follow through. And there's many discouraging steps along the way, and he's got to find out what will work and what won't work. And it's just as important to find out what won't work as it is to find out what will work.
In 1922, H.A. Farrand of Berlin invented the Farrand Rapid Rule. And a little while later, he sold the patent to the Stanley Company, and now we know this product as the Stanley tape measure. 20 inches. Then again, ingenuity might just be found in a wacky idea.
What I'd like to do is make a big wind-like musical instrument out of it. I want to put big propellers up top, take all the wood casing off, get it down to metal again, and have little wind chime things, one pointing in each direction of like north, south, east, and west, and put a propeller on it so it hits a little bar that will go down and hit the different notes on the piano. So it plays a different tune. So you can tell usually like if the wind's coming out of the north, you should hear a certain type tune out of it. I think it'll be great.
The last big theme was seasonal work and recreation. There are many occupations and recreational activities that are totally hinged on the fact that the seasons change here.
New Hampshire weather is notorious for having Mount Washington, which is known as having the world's worst weather, but we also probably have some of the world's most diverse weather. We have very strong seasonality. Our winters are extremely cold. Our summers can be extremely hot. And in a given year, we can have the whole kitchen sink thrown at us in terms of weather, in terms of threats of hurricanes and tornadoes. We also get blizzards and high winds, the ice storm, and so on. So New Hampshire, I would argue, has some of the most interesting weather in the entire country.
get the gravel moving around back and forth, and get that way it settles the gold down.
Yeah, the White Mountain National Forest sees close to 7 million visitors annually, which is more than Yellowstone and Yosemite National Parks combined.
The total area of New Hampshire is approximately 9,000 square miles, with 13,000 lakes and ponds and 40 rivers.
Well, we have looked at New Hampshire from sea to mountaintop and found an enduring connection to the land. It is more than just a place to live. It's where we work and play and raise our children. It's where our traditions, our history, and our heritage reside. And it continues on through our music, our work, our ingenuity, our politics, our communities, our seasons, and our recreation. We may not realize it, but all of us who live here have been deeply molded and shaped by this wonderful place we call New Hampshire.
Hip hip! Hooray! Woo! Good job! Woo!
Major funding for Hello New Hampshire was provided by Jefferson Pilot Financial, with additional support from the New Hampshire Humanities Council, the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts.